My daughter's husband thought I was asleep. He opened my drawer to steal the safe keys, but what he discovered inside shook him for life. Can you imagine discovering your own son-in-law, the man your daughter loves, sneaking into your bedroom to rob you blind? I can. But what he didn't know was that I wasn't just an old fool, and I was about to teach him a sparkling lesson he'd never, ever forget. It all started subtly, almost imperceptibly at first. One evening, Charlie's voice, my daughter Lauren's husband, cut through our peaceful dinner conversation. He asked, "So, David, that safe upstairs? What kind of lock does it have?" Lauren nearly choked on her water. "Charlie, what kind of question is that?" But his eyes were fixed on mine, sharp, predatory. My chest tightened. I carefully put down my fork, buying time. He forced a smile, muttering something about home security and break-ins, but I knew better. I'd lived in that neighborhood for 15 years. The biggest crime was Mrs. Henderson's cat getting stuck in a tree. Then his voice grew insistent, almost chilling. "A man your age, living alone in a house this size, you must have serious security measures. If something happened to you, God forbid, Lauren would need to know where everything important is kept, wouldn't she?" The room suddenly felt smaller, airless. I watched his pupils dilate, just slightly, when he mentioned my hypothetical demise. His fingers tapped a nervous rhythm on the table. "I have everything organized," I finally said. "Lauren knows what she needs to know." But Charlie wasn't done. "Does she know about the key?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Lauren was confused. "What key?" Charlie's smile widened. "The one in your dad's bedroom drawer." "The one that—" My words came out sharper than I intended. "How do you know about any key in my bedroom?" For a split second, his mask slipped. I saw something cold, something calculating, before the concerned son-in-law facade snapped back into place. He smoothly spun a story about looking for aspirin for a headache, accidentally opening the wrong drawer. Lauren, trusting soul that she is, nodded, remembering his suffering. But I remembered that day too. He'd been upstairs for nearly 30 minutes, claiming stomach troubles, long enough to do more than just search for aspirin. I said quietly, "The aspirins are in the medicine cabinet, Charlie. Always have been." His jaw tightened. The conversation limped along after that, but he kept circling back, his questions like fingers probing a wound, about my bank, who had keys to the house, my daily routines. Each query tested for weakness. When dinner finally ended, Lauren offered to clean up. "I don't mind," I said, already stacking plates. It was my routine, my way of processing. Tonight, I desperately needed that familiar rhythm. Charlie, however, insisted. "Come on, honey, let your dad handle his kitchen. We should get some rest." They disappeared upstairs. As I scrubbed the plates, Charlie's questions echoed in my mind. How he knew about that key, his casual mention of my death and Lauren's inheritance. My hands moved automatically. Wash, rinse, dry. While my mind cataloged every red flag I'd ignored over the past 3 weeks, his fuzzy unemployment story, his constant interest in my finances, the way he studied my house like a blueprint. Something fundamental had shifted. The house felt exposed now. Time to see what other surprises waited for me in my own home. Climbing the stairs, the first thing I noticed was my bedroom door. Slightly ajar. Just 2 inches of darkness. My hand gripped the banister. That door had been closed when I went down for dinner. Always. Lauren and Charlie were in the guest room down the hall. No reason for anyone to be in my bedroom. I stood there, listening. No sound. Just the old house settling and my own heartbeat drumming in my ears. I pushed the door open. It didn't creak. The hinges were well-oiled. Stepping into my private space felt like walking into a crime scene. Everything looked normal at first glance, but my eyes, trained by decades of methodical living, caught the discrepancies instantly. The closet door opened 4 inches. My dresser drawers, not quite flush. The second drawer from the top, where I kept important papers, had been pushed in carelessly. A corner of a manila folder peeked out like a yellow tongue. My stomach clenched. I pulled the drawer open. The folders inside had been rifled through, returned roughly, but not precisely. Someone had been thorough, but not careful enough. Insurance papers mixed with bank statements. My will, normally at the back, had migrated to the front. And the small brass key I kept taped under the drawer's lip? Gone. My hands started shaking, not from fear, but from a cold, consuming rage. This wasn't random. This was personal. Someone had violated my sanctuary, meticulously searching for specific items. Someone who knew exactly what to look for and where to find it. I checked my safe in the closet. The digital lock was fine, but that didn't matter. Charlie had the manual override key. Standing there, surrounded by decades of my life, I felt utterly exposed. How long had he been planning this? How many times had he been in here while Lauren and I were downstairs, innocently doing dinner? This went deeper than theft. This was intimate. He touched my private papers, seen my financial records, handled things meant for no one but me. But Charlie had made one crucial mistake. He'd assumed I was just an oblivious old man, too trusting, too tired to notice. He was wrong. I closed the dresser drawer carefully, leaving everything exactly as I'd found it. If Charlie thought he was operating in secret, I needed him to keep believing that. Let him think his intrusion went undetected. Let him proceed with whatever plan he was hatching. Because now I knew what I was dealing with. This wasn't about unemployment. This was about premeditated theft. By someone sleeping down the hall with my daughter. Sleep was impossible. I lay in bed, every small sound making me tense. At 11:47 p.m., I heard movement downstairs. Not Lauren's light step, something heavier, more deliberate. Charlie. I remained perfectly still, listening as the sounds moved toward the front of the house. Barely audible, then his voice. Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep. A phone call. Whispering at midnight. I eased myself up, the hardwood floor cold against my bare feet, and moved to the heating vent. Sometimes, sound traveled through the old ducts. Clearer now, his voice drifted up. The old man's definitely loaded. I found bank statements, investment portfolios, the whole thing. We're talking serious money here. My blood ran cold. We're talking, he wasn't working alone. Tomorrow night, Charlie continued. Lauren's going to her book club meeting, 7 to 9. Gives us perfect timing. My hands trembling, I grabbed my phone and opened the voice recording app. Whatever came next, I needed evidence. I already have the safe key, he boasted. Grabbed it earlier today while they were having dinner. The old fool keeps everything important in there. Cash, jewelry, probably more bank information. The bastard. I pressed record as his voice became more animated, more confident. Look, I know you're worried about the timeline, but my gambling debts aren't going away. Those guys aren't exactly patient, if you know what I mean. This has to happen now. Gambling debts. That explained everything. The desperation, the cold calculation, the willingness to betray my daughter's trust. He wasn't just an opportunistic thief. He was a desperate man, backed into a corner. David's just some lonely old widower, Charlie sneered, probably grateful for the company. He has no idea what's coming. Hell, he was asking me about home security at dinner tonight. Practically handed me the information I needed. Rage built in my chest, hot and consuming. The casual dismissal, the way he reduced me to a stereotype, an easy mark. But I forced myself to stay quiet, to keep recording. The beauty is he'll never suspect family. Even if he figures out something's missing, Lauren will convince him he just misplaced stuff. You know how old people get about their memory. Old people. I was 66, not 96. My memory was sharp enough to remember every word. Trust me, by Thursday, we'll be clear. I'll tell Lauren we got a job offer in another state, something urgent. We'll be gone before the old man knows what hit him. He laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. Yeah, well, maybe he should have been more careful about who he let into his house. Life lesson, right? The call ended. I heard Charlie moving around downstairs, then his careful footsteps on the stairs. I stopped the recording, slipped my phone under my pillow. Through the still ajar door, I watched his shadow pass. The guest room door closed softly. For a long time, I lay in the darkness, processing. Gambling debts, an accomplice, a plan to rob me tomorrow night, and then disappear with Lauren, dragging her into his web of deceit. The violation of my bedroom now seemed small compared to this larger betrayal. He wasn't just stealing from me, he was using Lauren, manipulating her love and trust. But he'd made one catastrophic miscalculation. He'd assumed I was helpless, clueless. He had no idea I'd spent 30 years as an insurance investigator, dealing with plenty of desperate people trying to outsmart the system. Charlie wanted to play games with an old man? Fine. Let's see how smart he really was. Lying there with that damning confession on my phone, I thought back to how it all started. 3 weeks ago, Lauren's desperate call had shattered my quiet Tuesday morning. Dad, her voice was strained, frightened. Charlie lost his job. We're behind on the mortgage. 3 months. My heart broke. My little girl, too proud to ask for help until she had no choice. Of course, she could come home. But even then, something had nagged at me. Charlie had worked for the same company for 8 years. Good reviews. Vague answers from Lauren about the layoffs. I should have pressed harder. They arrived 3 days later with a U-Haul and too many boxes. Lauren hugged me tight, whispering, "Thank you." But Charlie was different. Cooler. His handshake brief. His eyes already scanning my house with an intensity that should have alarmed me. "Nice place, David," he'd said, "worth quite a bit in today's market." At the time, I'd dismissed it as natural curiosity. Now I knew he'd been calculating. During their first week, I'd tried to make them comfortable. Charlie, though, asked endless questions about my neighborhood watch, which neighbors were home, my banking habits, my shopping routines, if I kept cash in the house. Innocent questions, I'd thought. Except they weren't. I remembered the morning he'd offered to drive me to the bank. He lingered near the teller window, watching my deposit, asking casual questions about my accounts, my safe deposit box. Red flags I'd ignored because I wanted to trust my daughter's husband. Because Lauren loved him. The gambling should have been obvious too. His phone rang constantly, calls he always took in private, stepping outside. He claimed they were potential employers. But I'd noticed his mood shifts after, the tension in his shoulders, his pacing. Financial statements addressed to Charlie had been arriving for 2 weeks. Credit card companies, collection agencies. I'd assumed they were just updating his address. Now I understood they were final demands, threats. Lauren knew none of this. She trusted him completely. She had no idea her husband was drowning in debt, or that her childhood home was being surveilled like a target. My trusting daughter was being used as the perfect cover for theft. The thought brought me back to the present. Charlie planned to rob me in 12 hours. Disappear with Lauren in 36. But he'd made one catastrophic miscalculation. He'd assumed I was just a lonely old man, grateful for company and easy to fool. I wasn't lonely. I was careful. I was observant. And I had 30 years of experience dealing with people who thought they were smarter than everyone else. Charlie wanted to steal from me tonight? Fine. Let him try. But he was about to learn that some old men bite back. I woke at 6:30 a.m., same as always. The recording on my phone felt like a nightmare, but the timestamp proved otherwise. Charlie's voice, clear as day, planning to rob me tonight. Downstairs, I started the coffee maker and began my usual breakfast routine. Everything precisely as it had been. When Lauren appeared, yawning and grateful, I smiled warmly. "Morning, sweetheart. Sleep well. Like a baby. Thank you again for letting us stay here, Dad." Charlie appeared 20 minutes later, hair damp from the shower. He looked rested, confident. A man with a plan. "Beautiful morning," he said, settling into his chair. "What's everyone got planned for today?" I set his coffee down. "Oh, the usual. Might run some errands later." Charlie's eyes sharpened slightly. "What kind of errands?" "Just odds and ends." "Hardware store? Maybe the bank." I watched his reaction. A tiny muscle twitched near his left eye. "Nothing exciting." "The bank." Charlie leaned forward. "Everything okay financially?" Lauren laughed. "Dad's always been paranoid about checking his accounts in person. Old habits." "Not paranoid," I corrected mildly, careful. "You can't be too careful these days." Charlie nodded too enthusiastically. "Absolutely right. Identity theft, online scams. It's a jungle out there for someone your age." There it was again. That casual dismissal wrapped in false concern. "Speaking of careful," Charlie continued, "I've been thinking about your home security. This neighborhood seems pretty quiet, but you never know. That safe upstairs. Is that where you keep important documents?" What about cash? I mean, if the banks went down, it's smart to have emergency funds readily available. The audacity was breathtaking. He was sitting at my breakfast table, eating food I'd prepared, asking me to inventory my assets for his convenience. I have what I need, I said simply. He tried a different approach. You mentioned being a heavy sleeper last week. That's good. I worry about older folks who can't get proper rest. I hadn't mentioned any such thing, but I nodded. Oh yes. Once I'm out, I'm dead to the world, especially lately. I've been so tired in the evenings. That's normal at your age, Charlie said. Your body needs more rest. Lauren shot him a look. Charlie, that's rude. No, he's right, I said quickly. I usually take something to help me sleep. Knocks me right out until morning. Charlie's posture relaxed noticeably. Perfect. Let him think I'd be unconscious and helpless tonight. Well, I should let you folks plan your day, I said, standing to clear the dishes. I'll probably turn in early tonight. All this family activity has me more tired than usual. That sounds perfect, Dad. You deserve rest, Lauren said. Charlie helped carry plates to the kitchen, and I caught him glancing toward the stairs, toward my bedroom. Calculating. Planning. You know, he said casually, I might stay up late tonight, watch some TV in the living room. I'm a bit of a night owl. Of course, he was. I smiled and nodded. Make yourself comfortable. The remote's on the coffee table. As I backed out of the driveway later, I saw Charlie watching from the upstairs window. Not the guest room window. My bedroom window. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Tonight couldn't come soon enough. The hardware store was my first stop. I needed supplies, but more importantly, I needed to think through every detail. Charlie had made his intentions crystal clear. Tonight, while I supposedly slept deeply, he planned to enter my bedroom, find the key he'd spotted weeks ago, and open my safe. Simple, clean. The perfect crime against a trusting old man. Except the key wasn't there anymore. I'd moved it at 5 a.m. after lying awake since Charlie's phone call. It now sat safely in my kitchen junk drawer. He could search my bedroom dresser until his fingers bled. He'd find nothing. But that wasn't enough. I wanted him caught red-handed, humiliated, exposed for exactly what he was. I wanted evidence so clear that even Lauren couldn't deny her husband's true nature. In the party supply aisle, I found what I needed. A small confetti cannon, the kind used for gender reveal parties. Spring-loaded, designed to create maximum mess. Perfect. I also picked up a bag of ultra-fine glitter. Silver and gold. Because if Charlie wanted to be a thief, he should look the part. Back home, I found the house empty. A note from Lauren. Gone grocery shopping with Charlie. Back by 2 p.m. Love you. Perfect timing. I had 3 hours. In my basement workshop, I carefully dismantled the confetti cannon. I replaced the harmless paper confetti with my glitter mixture, adding just enough to coat someone thoroughly without causing injury. The tricky part was calibration. It needed to trigger when Charlie opened my dresser drawer and reached inside, but not from casual contact. After several tests, I found the right sensitivity. Installation required precision. I placed the modified cannon inside my dresser drawer, positioning it so the trigger would activate when someone reached toward the back, exactly where the key had been hidden. To anyone glancing inside, it would look like normal drawer contents. But reach in with purpose, search with intent, and, surprise. I tested the setup 3 times. Each triggered perfectly, sending a cloud of glitter exactly where an intruder's face and hands would be. The device reset easily. Next came the key deception. I placed a dummy key in plain sight near the front of the drawer. An old luggage key, similar enough to fool someone in a hurry. Charlie would spot it immediately, reach for it confidently, and trigger my surprise. The beauty was in the psychology. Charlie expected stealth, silence, success. He'd planned for a quick, quiet theft. He hadn't planned for a glitter explosion that would mark him as clearly as a die pack marks bank robbers. By 1:45 p.m., everything was in place. The drawer looked innocent and normal. The trap was armed and ready. Charlie would walk into my bedroom tonight expecting to find a helpless victim. Instead, he'd find 24-karat justice. I heard car doors slamming. Lauren and Charlie were back, probably feeling domestic and normal. Charlie had no idea his crime scene had become a trap. I closed the dresser drawer gently and headed downstairs, wearing my best grandfatherly smile. Tonight was going to be very interesting. I need to run out for a quick errand, I announced after lunch. Won't be long. Charlie barely glanced up from his phone, but I caught the flicker of interest in his eyes. The old man running errands alone, leaving the house unguarded, confirming his mental map of my routine. At Best Buy, a helpful young man named Marcus didn't blink when I explained I wanted a security camera for my bedroom. A lot of break-ins in your area? He asked. Something like that. I needed something small, good night vision, wireless. I settled on a compact model that connected to my smartphone. Smaller than a deck of cards, with magnetic mounting. You'll want to test the placement, Marcus advised. The app lets you see exactly what the camera sees in real time. Perfect. I paid cash. The camera sat beside me in its box like a secret weapon. Back home, I found Charlie and Lauren watching television. Comfortable, domestic. Not thieves preparing for a heist. Just going to rest for a few minutes, I told them, heading upstairs. All this running around has me beat. In my bedroom, I closed the door and got to work. The camera needed to capture Charlie's approach, his reaction to opening the drawer, and the glitter explosion. And it needed to be completely hidden. I tested several positions using the app. On my bookshelf? Wrong angle. Behind my lamp? Too obvious. Finally, I found it, nestled between books on my nightstand, angled to capture both the dresser and the center of the room. The magnetic mount held perfectly, the black casing blending with the book spines. Unless someone was specifically looking for surveillance equipment, it was invisible. I spent 20 minutes adjusting the angle, ensuring optimal coverage. Motion detection, night vision, clear audio, everything was perfect. The setup was elegant in its simplicity. Charlie would enter my room expecting darkness and silence. Instead, he'd be filmed from the moment he crossed the threshold. The camera would capture his search, his discovery of the dummy key, his reaching into the drawer, and the spectacular glitter explosion. Visual evidence, audio evidence, and physical evidence, all in one beautiful package. I repositioned a few books to better camouflage the camera, then stood back. Everything looked normal, innocent. Just an old man's bedroom, ready for a peaceful night's sleep. Downstairs, I could hear Lauren and Charlie talking quietly. He had no idea the window had become a trapdoor. I checked my phone one final time. The camera feed was clear, recording active, battery full. Everything was ready. Tonight, Charlie would finally show his true colors. Let the games begin. Dinner passed peacefully, with Lauren chatting and Charlie checking his phone frequently. I played my part perfectly, the tired grandfather, ready for an early bedtime. By 8 p.m., we were in the living room. Long day, I murmured, rubbing my temples. Think I'll turn in early tonight. Charlie looked up immediately. Actually, David, I was hoping we could share a drink first. You know, father and son-in-law bonding time. The suggestion came out of nowhere, but his tone was carefully casual. Too casual? That's sweet, Lauren said, not looking up from her book. I was thinking about that bottle of Macallan I saw in your kitchen, Charlie continued. Premium stuff, perfect for a nightcap. I kept my expression neutral, but internally, I was fascinated. He'd been planning this. The timing, the specific mention of expensive whiskey. Nothing was accidental. I appreciate the thought, I said, but I'm on medication that doesn't mix well with alcohol. He smiled tight. Come on, one small glass won't hurt. We're practically family. Really, I should avoid it entirely. Lauren chimed in, Dad's right. The doctor was very specific about his blood pressure medication. But Charlie wasn't giving up. What about just a toast then? A tiny sip? To family? The persistence was telling. A normal person would have accepted my refusal. Charlie was pushing because he needed me to drink something specific. Something that would ensure I slept deeply. You know what? I said, standing carefully. I'm more tired than I thought. I think I'll take one of those sleeping pills and call it a night. Charlie's posture changed immediately. Sleeping pills? Doctor prescribed them last month. Powerful stuff. Knocks me out completely. I'll be dead to the world until morning. Relief flooded his face. That sounds perfect. You need your rest. Sweet dreams, Dad. Lauren kissed my cheek. I made a production of climbing the stairs slowly, pausing to grip the railing like an old man struggling with fatigue. At the top, I turned back. Don't stay up too late, you two. Charlie, help yourself to anything in the kitchen. Thanks, David. Sleep well. In my bedroom, I went through the motions of preparing for sleep. But I also double-checked my camera positioning and confirmed the glitter trap was ready. I turned off my bedroom light and settled onto the bed, fully clothed, positioning myself where I could see the hallway through my slightly open door. Downstairs, I could hear the television playing softly. Charlie and Lauren talking in hushed voices. Then Lauren's footsteps on the stairs, the guest room door closing. Charlie stayed downstairs, waiting, calculating how long it would take for my sleeping pill to take full effect. I checked my phone. 9:47 p.m. The camera showed my empty bedroom in perfect night vision detail. The trap was set. The stage was prepared. All I had to do now was wait for my son-in-law to reveal his true nature. At 2:43 a.m., I heard the first creak on the stairs. I'd been lying motionless for hours, watching my phone, seeing my empty bedroom in perfect night vision clarity. Charlie moved like a professional burglar, avoiding the spots on the stairs that groaned under weight. He'd learned my house's quirks during his 3-week residency. The hallway floorboard outside my room whispered under his weight. Then silence. He was listening, making sure his sleeping pill story had worked its magic. I controlled my breathing, keeping it deep and regular. The performance of my life, with my daughter's future hanging in the balance. My door handle turned with glacial slowness. Charlie's silhouette appeared in the doorway, backlit by the faint hallway nightlight. He stood frozen for 30 seconds, watching my supposedly unconscious form. Satisfied I was deeply sedated, he slipped inside. He moved with predatory confidence now, believing himself invisible and untouchable. He approached my dresser with the certainty of a man who'd planned every step. 3 weeks of reconnaissance had taught him exactly where to find what he needed, the key that would unlock my safe, my security, my life savings. I watched him position himself directly in front of the dresser. His hands reached for the second drawer, the one containing my spectacular surprise. The drawer slid open smoothly. For a split second, his posture radiated triumph. He'd found his target. He reached inside confidently, fingers seeking the brass key that would solve all his problems. Then my confetti bomb exploded. Boom! The sound was magnificent, like a party favor crossed with a small cannon. Silver and gold glitter erupted in a glorious cloud, coating Charlie from head to toe in sparkling confetti. The explosion echoed through the house like celebratory gunfire. Charlie stumbled backward, cursing violently as glitter settled in his hair, on his clothes, across his shocked face. He looked like he'd been attacked by a craft store, transformed into a walking disco ball. What the hell? He gasped, brushing frantically at the glitter clinging to everything. I performed my awakening with Academy Award precision, sitting up with startled confusion. What on earth? I called out, reaching for my bedside lamp. What was that noise? Light flooded the room, revealing Charlie in all his glittering glory. He stood frozen beside my dresser, covered head to toe in festive confetti, holding the dummy key I'd placed as bait. Charlie? I blinked with theatrical bewilderment. What are you doing in my bedroom? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Glitter fell from his hair like holiday snow. I heard a noise, he stammered. Thought someone might be breaking in. Breaking in? I glanced around my room with apparent confusion. And you ended up sparkling? Charlie looked down at himself, finally grasping the full extent of his transformation. He resembled a rejected Christmas ornament. There was some kind of trap, he said weakly. Trap? I tilted my head innocently. In my bedroom? From down the hall came the sound of feet hitting the floor. Lauren, awakened by the explosion, was coming to investigate. Charlie's eyes widened with panic. How do you explain being covered in craft supplies while robbing your father-in-law at 3 a.m.? David, what's happening? Lauren's voice carried worry and growing alertness. Charlie opened his mouth desperately, but no believable explanation emerged. He was caught, literally red-handed, or rather, glitter-handed, in the act of betraying our family. I allowed myself the smallest smile as footsteps approached down the hallway. My justice, it turned out, was beautifully sparkly. "Dad, are you okay?" Lauren appeared in the doorway, tying her robe belt with quick, worried movements. Then she stopped dead, taking in the scene, me sitting up in bed, apparently confused, and Charlie, standing beside my open dresser drawer, covered from head to toe in glittering confetti like he'd been dipped in a craft store. "What in the world?" Lauren's voice caught. "Charlie, why do you look like a Christmas decoration?" Charlie's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Glitter drifted from his hair with each movement, settling on my bedroom carpet like festive snow. "There was a noise," he said finally, his voice strained. "I came to check on your father." "At 3 in the morning?" Lauren's tone sharpened. "And you ended up covered in, what is that, glitter?" "Some kind of security device," Charlie said quickly, brushing frantically at his sparkling clothes. "It went off when I opened the drawer." Lauren's eyes moved from Charlie to the open dresser drawer, then to me. "Dad, do you have security devices in your furniture?" I maintained my expression of elderly confusion. "Not that I know of, sweetheart." I was sound asleep until that explosion woke me up. "Then why were you in his dresser drawer, Charlie?" Lauren's voice carried a new edge I'd never heard before. Protective. Suspicious. Charlie's story began crumbling in real time. "I was looking for something to help you sleep. You were tossing and turning, and I thought David might have some extra sleep aids." "Sleep aids?" Lauren's eyebrows lifted. "In his bedroom dresser?" "I thought maybe." Charlie gestured weakly at the drawer, sending more glitter cascading to the floor. "Charlie," I said gently, "my medications are in the bathroom cabinet." "They always have been." The silence that followed felt heavy with implications. Lauren looked between us, her expression shifting from confusion to something harder. "So, let me understand this," she said slowly. "You left our bed at 3 in the morning, came into my father's bedroom while he was sleeping, and opened his private dresser drawer. Looking for medicine you knew wasn't there." "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" Lauren's voice rose slightly. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my husband was going through my father's personal belongings in the middle of the night." Charlie's desperation grew more visible. "Lauren, you have to understand. I was just trying to help." "Help with what exactly?" I interjected mildly. "What were you hoping to find in that drawer?" Charlie's eyes darted between us. The question hung in the air like an accusation. I was confused, disoriented. "I thought I heard someone breaking in." "Breaking in," Lauren repeated flatly. "So, you decided to search my father's bedroom furniture?" "I wasn't searching." "Then what do you call opening his dresser drawer?" Charlie's glitter-covered hands clenched into fists. "Why are you interrogating me like this? I'm your husband." The defensive anger in his voice seemed to hit Lauren like a physical blow. She took a step back. I saw something change in her expression. The last traces of trust beginning to crumble. "You're right," she said quietly. "You are my husband. Which is why I'm asking you to explain why you're standing in my father's bedroom at 3 in the morning, covered in craft supplies, with your hand in his private drawer." Charlie looked trapped, cornered by the weight of his own implausible explanations. Glitter continued to fall from his clothes like evidence of his guilt. "I can explain everything," he said desperately. "Then please do." Lauren crossed her arms. "Because right now I'm very confused about what my husband was doing in here." I watched my daughter's face. I saw the exact moment her protective instincts shifted from Charlie to me. The moment she began to see the situation not as a misunderstanding, but as a threat to her father. Charlie must have seen it too, because his next words came out edged with panic. "Lauren, you have to trust me." But trust, once broken by glitter and lies, isn't easily repaired. Lauren's eyes stayed fixed on Charlie. I could see her mental wheels turning, processing, analyzing, drawing conclusions her heart didn't want to accept. "Charlie," she said slowly, "I need you to tell me the truth right now. What were you really doing in my father's bedroom?" Charlie opened his mouth, but I knew the moment had come. My daughter deserved better than watching her husband spin more lies. She deserved the truth, no matter how much it would hurt. "Lauren," I said gently, reaching for my phone on the nightstand. There's something you need to hear. Charlie's face went white beneath the glitter. David, don't. Don't what? Lauren's voice sharpened dangerously. Don't what, Charlie? I held up my phone. Sweetheart, I recorded something last night. A phone conversation. I think you should listen to it. No, Charlie said quickly. Lauren, whatever he thinks he heard. Be quiet. Lauren snapped, never taking her eyes off me. Dad, play it. I pressed play. Charlie's voice filled the room, clear and damning. Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep. The old man's definitely loaded. I found bank statements, investment portfolios, the whole thing. We're talking serious money here. Lauren's face went completely still. Her eyes widened as she listened to her husband discussing my finances with a stranger. Tomorrow night, Lauren's going to her book club meeting. She goes every Tuesday, 7 to 9. Gives us perfect timing. Stop it. Charlie said desperately. Lauren, I can explain. Shut up. Lauren's voice was deadly quiet. Just shut up and let me listen. Charlie's voice continued from the phone. I already have the safe key. Grabbed it earlier today while they were having dinner. The old fool keeps everything important in there. Cash, jewelry, probably more bank information. Lauren's hand flew to her mouth. She stared at Charlie like she was seeing a stranger. Look, I know you're worried about the timeline, but my gambling debts aren't going away. Those guys aren't exactly patient, if you know what I mean. Gambling debts? Lauren whispered. What gambling debts? The recording continued. David's just some lonely old widower. Probably grateful for the company. He has no idea what's coming. I watched my daughter's face crumble as she heard her husband's casual dismissal of me. His assessment of my vulnerability, his cold calculation of how to exploit my kindness. The beauty is he'll never suspect family. Even if he figures out something's missing, Lauren will convince him he just misplaced stuff. You know how old people get about their memory. Lauren made a sound like she'd been physically struck. Her husband's voice discussing how to use her trust to cover his theft of her father. Trust me, by Thursday, we'll be clear. I'll tell Lauren we got a job offer in another state, something urgent. We'll be gone before the old man knows what hit him. I stopped the recording. The silence that followed was deafening. Lauren stared at Charlie, tears streaming down her face. Gambling debts, she whispered. You were going to rob my father? You called him a lonely old fool. Her voice broke. You were going to steal from him and then disappear, taking me with you as your cover story. Charlie tried to step toward her, but she backed away like he was dangerous. How much? She demanded. How much do you owe? It doesn't matter. How much? Charlie's shoulders sagged. 47,000. Lauren's legs seemed to give out. She sank against the doorframe, staring at the man she'd married. You've been lying to me for months, she said, about everything. The job loss, our finances. Why? We really needed to stay here. I was trying to protect you. By planning to rob my father? Lauren's voice rose to a shout. By using me as your alibi while you destroyed the man who raised me? Charlie tried once more. Lauren, we can work this out. No. Lauren straightened, and I saw steel enter her spine. No, we can't. You planned to victimize my father. You called him names. You were going to let me believe he was losing his memory while you stole from him. She looked at Charlie with pure disgust. Get out, Charlie. Get out of my father's house. Now. For the first time since I'd known him, Charlie had nothing to say. He stood there for another 10 seconds, glitter still falling from his hair like tarnished snow. Then, something in Lauren's expression, that pure, protective fury, finally convinced him that his marriage was over. This isn't finished, he said, his voice turning ugly. Half of everything we own is mine. I'll get my share. You mean half of our debt? Lauren's voice was ice cold. Because that's all we have, Charlie. Gambling debt that I knew nothing about. I'll fight you in court. With what money? Lauren stepped closer to him. I was proud to see she wasn't backing down. You just admitted you owe $47,000 to dangerous people. What exactly are you going to fight me with? Charlie's bravado crumbled. He looked at me with something approaching hatred. This is your fault, old man. You turned her against me. No, Lauren said firmly. You did that yourself. When you decided to plan a robbery instead of asking for help. When you called my father names. When you lied to me for months. Charlie tried one last desperate approach. Lauren, we're married. We took vows. You broke those vows when you planned to commit a felony against my family. Lauren pointed toward the door. Get your things and get out. Now. I watched Charlie realize that his con was truly over. No more manipulation. No more lies. No more playing the victim. Lauren had heard his own words condemn him. He left the room without another word, tracking glitter through my house like a trail of evidence. We could hear him in the guest room, throwing clothes into bags with bitter violence. Lauren sank into my bedside chair, looking exhausted. Dad, I'm so sorry, she whispered. I brought him into your home. I put you in danger. Sweetheart, you couldn't have known. I should have seen the signs, she insisted, the phone calls. The way he asked questions about your money. She looked up at me with tear-filled eyes. How long have you known? Since the night before last, I admitted. I heard that phone call and knew I had to protect both of us. Lauren managed a weak smile. The glitter bomb was genius. I wanted him caught red-handed, I chuckled, or should I say, glitter-handed? That earned me a genuine laugh, even through her tears. Charlie reappeared in the doorway with 2 hastily packed bags, still sparkling like a defeated party favor. Lauren, she said without looking at him. Leave your key on the kitchen counter. Don't contact me. My lawyer will contact yours. Charlie opened his mouth to argue, then seemed to realize the futility. He walked away, and a minute later, we heard the front door slam. Lauren and I sat in silence for a few moments, listening to Charlie's car start and drive away into the night. Can I stay here? Lauren asked quietly. Just until I figure things out. Sweetheart, I said, this is your home for as long as you want it. 3 months later, I was making coffee when Lauren came downstairs for her new job at the local library. She'd taken to morning routines with the same methodical precision I'd always admired. Morning, Dad. Morning, sweetheart. Sleep well. Like a baby. She poured herself coffee and settled at the kitchen table. Any regrets about the great glitter trap of March? I chuckled. Only that I didn't film his face when it exploded. Lauren's divorce had been finalized 2 weeks ago. Charlie had contested nothing. Hard to argue property division when you're facing potential criminal charges and $47,000 in gambling debt. Library busy today? I asked. Story time at 10. Then I'm helping Mrs. Patterson research her genealogy. Lauren smiled. I love it there. Quiet, peaceful, full of people who actually appreciate books. She paused at the door. Thank you, Dad. For protecting me, for handling everything so elegantly. Thank you for trusting me when it mattered most. After she left, I sat in my kitchen, sipping coffee and reading the newspaper. The house felt peaceful in a way it hadn't for months. No tension, no lies, no one calculating how to exploit my kindness. My phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. Forgot to mention, Mrs. Henderson asked if you'd help her install a security system. Apparently, word got around about your innovative home protection methods. I laughed out loud. Maybe I should patent the confetti bomb approach to home security. Outside, spring was settling over Coeur d'Alene. My neighborhood remained quiet and safe, just as it had been before Charlie's brief invasion of our lives. Sometimes, justice comes from courtrooms and police. Sometimes, it comes from trusting your instincts, setting careful traps, and letting people reveal their true natures. And sometimes, justice sparkles. What would you have done if you caught a family member trying to betray you like this? Let me know in the comments below. I'd really love to hear your thoughts.